Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome on back to the Unified Proving Ground Circuit, where we are getting into the hottest and greatest of action out there. My name's Travis T. I am joined by the ever so lovely Smats, and I've also got a lovely guest for us, Mura. How are you two doing?
Great. I'm so excited to get back into League of Legends. It's been a bit, we've been off stream for the whole weekend. I hope everyone had a great weekend. I certainly did. And yeah, I'm just ready to get back into League of Legends.
I'm doing great. I just woke up from playing solo queue till 8 a.m. I'm ready to watch some League of Legends.
So you had a great weekend then.
Yeah.
Depending on how the games went, yeah. We don't need to get into that detail there, though. We have some fun games coming at us, and we get to start our day off with a fantastic matchup here. We get Golden Guardians Academy taking on Wildcard. This is going to be a fun one, Smats. These two teams going at each other for not the first time.
Yeah, so these guys, they've had some pretty solid records overall in the Unified, but for Golden Guardians Academy, we also had a little bit of a pit stop in between last week and this week, and that was called Lock-In, where all 5 of these players did play in those games as Golden Guardians are awaiting their visas. We saw them play 3 times. And unfortunately, they did lose all 3 of those games. But there was good stuff in those games. I really appreciated Ryoma's skill, as always. I think that guy is incredible. I think Chime really stood out to me as well. It's just that they have a few problems that they need to iron out, and that's why they're getting all their reps in for the Proving Grounds tournaments as well. I'm pretty excited for Golden Guardians. I think they're still going to do very well. Of course, there is that big asterisk that the games they played in Lock-In were all against LCS teams. There are no LCS teams in this tournament, so ideally they do have some better games after that. But yeah, they definitely need to iron out some stuff after those few games for sure. Most notably, I think the mid-jungle synergy is a place of contention that they're going to need to figure out.
I love the fact that you called the LCS Lock-In a pit stop, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, what a pit stop to make, right? It's a fancy place, very bougie. But with that being said, talking about some places where it can get pretty insane, we're back over here into the amateur scene for Golden Guardians Academy. And Mira, I want to go ahead and talk with you a bit. And there's some exciting things that could possibly happen. We've seen this meta constantly changing, and the champion pool has been ever changing.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting. I really like this meta in League of Legends as opposed to like seeing the same champions over and over again. I think it's great for the players, and I think it's great for the viewership especially, because who wants to watch the same Malphite versus Tom Kench or whatever matchup every single game? Zoe versus Twisted Fate, I don't know. Maybe middle lane matchups are the same still. But I think it's really great. I love it. I love this meta of League of Legends.
Well, if you don't like Tom Kench, then you might not be too big a fan of Wildcard's gameplay. Alorum definitely playing that champion.
I play a lot of Aurelia, so Tom Kench is like the devil to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alorum is a scary person for you there. Watch out for him. Also is more than happy to break out the notable Urgot and recently the Sejuani with the Night TP. Alorum's a crazy person sometimes. But talking about Alorum, Smats, there's a very fun matchup. You talked about Alorum a little bit. He's going against Tony Top, who is also somebody who has a very different champion pool in that top lane.
Yeah, I think this matchup's going to be really fun. The tanks versus bruisers and split pushers. Alorum on the tanks and Tony on the split pushers, I think is really interesting. We saw a lot of times that Tony was punished quite heavily in the games that we saw in Lock-In, and also before that as well. I think Barrick from UC Irvine actually had a really solid set of games against this player as well. So for Tony moving into a matchup against Alorum where he's very stalwart, he's very stable with these tanks up there, the Tom Kench, the Poppy, the Sejuani, like you mentioned, Travesty. It's going to be really hard to break that matchup and actually gain an advantage. So for Tony, like, this might just have to be a bit of a shift to adjust to the player that he's against today, because we know that Alorum is going to play a tank, or maybe Urgot. We have a pretty good idea right
Unlucky.
there.
Yeah, very unlucky.
Unlucky.
Yeah, that's the word you say when the Urgot sets his hook in there, for sure. Talking about that though, flipping over, you talked about how there might need to be some adaptation here. We do have a storied matchup here inside the mid lane. And Mura, I want to ask you, when it comes down to the mid lane as well, we've seen the mid lane kind of settle into a little bit more of a pool. We've seen a lot of Corki coming back in, especially throughout all regions. How are you feeling?
A very lovable champion, Corkscrew. So I mained mid lane, and then I switched to top lane, and what I've noticed was mid lane contains a lot of champions where you're just pushing waves back and forth, and whoever gets to push it first is happier. And the teammates usually tend to be happier because they tend to have first move. Or they're just really scaly champions like Victor, Corki again. So lots of times you're just trying to find that comfortable spot in mid lane and trying to scale or roam, whatever fits your boat.
Do whatever your heart pleases. Yeah.
So we tend to see a lot of matchups like Twisted Fate, Orianna, the same mages, like Corkscrew, classic.
The classic Corkscrew. And talking about a classic here, we do have Ryoma versus Strumpus, which are two mid laners that have had quite a bit here inside of it. We do have a graphics match. Here's the head-to-head. Break this down for me between these two.
Yeah, so we're actually seeing the stats that have been pulled definitely favor Ryoma here. He's been looking pretty solid in a lot of their games. For Strumpus, you know, he's playing a lot of the scaling side of it that Mura was just mentioning. His picture is LeBlanc, but he's definitely known for things like the Azir, the Casio, the Ryze, the ones that are going to be scaling up, maybe getting that push priority, but going to be late game beasts. That's sort of what I'm expecting for Strumpus in this matchup.
So are these champion specific stats, or this is just like the
Oh, this is just them. Yeah, this is just them. This is just them on the Rift.
Yeah.
So
if LeBlanc had lower KP than Victor, there'd definitely be a problem. But I think for Strumpus, I think the champion pool definitely favors him scaling up. And for Ryoma, I think we've seen him be some more on those proactive roamers, like you mentioned, Mura. So we have the different dynamic there head to head in this mid lane. I think for Strumpus, if they can just play calm, cool, collected on the side of Wildcard, then both he and Alorum, I think, are going to have a pretty nice time in this lane. I think Strumpus definitely has the tougher time against Ryoma, who I believe is the best player in this entire tournament. So we'll see how that actually goes. I think if Ryoma and Iconic come into this series with a stronger friendship bond, maybe, than we saw yesterday, I think it'll be really nice. Yeah, maybe they made some friendship bracelets after lock-in, you know?
Yeah. It will empower you, alright?
Yeah.
The secret has been spilled here by Smats, live on air, and something to look out for is we have a fun day full of matches here for ourselves to be able to go through here. We do have the bracket to be shown here, and you can see everything and how it is playing out with Group A and Group B here, and man, all these games look so good.
True.
We have Group A going on the other stream that's unified live today. On this stream, we've got all the games for Group B. And yeah, just a reminder, whoever wins this next match we're about to watch, Golden Guardians Academy, Wildcard Gaming, whoever wins will be first seed in this group and will already be in playoffs. Loser has to play against the winner of the next match that we're going to watch later, Bay State versus UCI. So that's sort of how these groups go. It's sort of just like a little mini double elimination bracket sort of deal.
Which I personally love, by the way.
Yeah,
Give me
really
more
fun.
best of threes. I want to see the best possible team being able to come out on top, and that's exactly what we're getting with all this. So just to reiterate what Smets had said before, Group A is over on the Unified Live, and then Group B you'll be seeing right here on the Academy channel for today. And I'm excited. Our first game, like we were talking about, Golden Guardians Academy versus Wildcard Gaming, has a lot of exciting points to go on here. You can even see a nice little graphic to see what's going on, as on the other stream, we do have 100 Thieves Nets taking on Team No Team, which had a fantastic showing last week.
That's a great team icon No Team has right there.
Yes, it is.
I don't think I've ever heard of this team.
You should follow them on Twitter. They're great.
I'll think about it. Yeah.
Yeah. They have Microsoft Paint figures of all their
They
players.
do.
I love it. I love it. It's personally favorite branding.
It's really good. It's a really powerful logo.
Picture is worth 1,000 words or something, right? That's what they've got here.
Sometimes the logos are enough for you to become a fan. So Nitin, they really went in on it.
Now I'm rooting for no team. I don't know.
Oh, I absolutely love to see it. And hey, look, there's going to be some fantastic matches to continue going on throughout the day. And it's going to be a great time. That being said, we do have some interesting other things to kind of go back onto to talk about today's matches. There's also some predictions that I would love to go through as well. Going over to our casters' predictions. There is some team ambition love here, but that immediately catches my eyes.
Yeah, Jolly's going for some crazy predictions today. I just want to say the NFT, the love there, I love it.
We got the NFT prediction. It's there.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, is that your pick, real quick? Do they have a fan in you?
I'm
right
with
now?
it.
Just like, NFT all the
They
way.
can win, guys.
I'm all about it. And there's actually a lot. Like last week, we had a lot of people on the same boat, but you can see not a single one of these games has every caster on the same line of thinking here. I'm in love with this. We're starting to see the paths diverge.
There's no unanimousness today, which is quite nice. I will say, as cool as NFT is, I do also think the 100 Thieves is probably going to win that one. But
What?
I think no team is going to win later. Just maybe not today.
serious?
I'm sorry, Mura. I'm sorry.
It's all right. I'm
They're
sorry.
gonna
I'll
They're
make
gonna
sure
win,
you have
and I'm
one.
gonna come back to you, and I'm just gonna laugh in your face. I don't know.
Yeah. I'll allow it. At that point, if that happens, I will deserve it. So.
I'm all about it. Look, we got a little rivalry going on here. Now we have to keep an eye on the other streamers that's going on. There's going to be some trash talk happening in between the games, I feel like, that I'm going to have to mediate. Going back over to Gold Guardians and Wildcard Gaming, flipping back over to them, very interesting things to take note of is Wildcard Gaming has been a very interesting squad to watch grow up. And I do want to highlight some of the growth that they've had. They did have a former, amateur all-star AD carry go up into the leagues and whatnot. And we get a nice little roster graphic. I'm in love with this.
Oh,
It's very nice
look at the
graphics.
support one. The support one is the unified logo with a little ward. That's very
Yeah.
creative.
That's so cute.
That's really cool. I like that. Whoever did that one, big shout out. But yeah, for like you're saying, the AD carry matchup's really interesting because Manui, of course, playing against Stixay, who needs no introduction, LCS player for a very long time. Now coach for this squad, subbing in for Violet as he's waiting for his visa. Stixay, of course, the biggest height of any North American team, did go to MSI finals with the CLG roster back in the day. So a lot of experience on one side, and then for Manui, just the last year for Proving Grounds is the only experience he has. But I think, like you said, Travesty, Manui has definitely proven himself to be a really skilled bot laner. Playing with Pocus, as it was announced today, Rhino got picked up for Team Liquid Academy. Big congratulations to Rhino. We'll see if he comes back later, but for now, this lane is looking to be a really interesting one for Wildcard. If they can get some advantages here, then I think it'll pay dividends for them scaling up into the late game, where I think Wildcard will need to really make their gameplay work for themselves. This is a very late game oriented team coming in, and that's how they've won a lot of their games.
Very excited to see what can happen with it, man. We've seen a lot of prep actually get thrown into the bot lane, especially too, right? Like this is something where we've seen a lot of people picking the Caitlyn Jinx over and over again. We've seen a couple mages every now and again as well. We've seen the Syndra bot lane from Team Ambition. We've seen all these crazy things that have been going on. But it always feels like it goes back to that Caitlyn Jinx eventually. It all boils down to these scaling carries. And I'm very interested. Do you think this is going to be something that's going to be contested yet again here, Smats?
Probably. They're from Arcane, you know? Everyone's got to play the new Arcane champions, Caitlyn and Jinx. They got the skins and everything. I've even been seeing Vi mid happen a lot because I assume because of Arcane. Yeah. People are playing like the Duskblade lethality build, and I was like, I
have yet to play against one.
I was about to ask, have you played against one yet?
No, if I play against it, who knows what'll happen to me.
I have played against it, and let me tell you, it's not a very fun time for Zed. Zed does not have a good matchup into that, so that's pretty tough. Although, I was really interested, so I looked up like the stats for this. It is the lowest win rate mid laner in the whole game right now, so I think I might just be bad.
Clearly not against Zed.
Yeah, not against Zed. Not against my Zed, definitely. Playing against my Zed is 100%.
Come on, Zed. Not your Zed. Zed in general. Unplayable matchup.
Yeah, exactly.
It's unplayable.
You heard
it. So a lower win rate than your champions that you were talking about last week. You don't want to see any Yasuo, no Yone.
Yeah,
you got to see a lot of it, so...
I've come around a little bit to Yasuo because I really liked the way that a lot of the pro teams around the world were playing with Diana with it. I think the priority on those two champions together is really good. But we didn't see that at all last week here. So if you're not picking Diana, I still don't like Yasuo at all. So maybe try those two champions together. Probably just leave those away and play the mages in mid lane right now, though.
I think Yasuo can fit in certain comps, but I think he's a much harder champion to steer compared to
really
a lot of the other ones, so it's harder to pick up and actually make him work.
I agree.
I'm with that. Like, you need other champions, right? To actually come together, to act as that glue, to have that Yasuo Wombo combo moment. The dream that you go 0-10 in your solo queue games when you play Yasuo. That's what we all pick Yasuo wanting to achieve.
That's true.
Looking at it, I really am interested too, because the fact that in the mid lane we do have more of the scaling that is coming in here and kind of going into that role. We saw the mid lane matchup, the head-to-head between the two. I'm also very curious on how the jungle matchup is going to be. We've seen a lot of unique champions here actually throughout the Proving Ground circuit, and the jungle role has been a very interesting one to keep our eyes on, and we got two very hype matchups here.
For sure. It's not quite the age-old story of Griffin versus Griffin that we got to see in the OQs, but it is Griffin versus Iconic. I'm still waiting to see what the repercussions are of young Griffin winning that matchup, by the way. But anyway, I think this matchup is really interesting. Like I said before, Iconic and Ryoma haven't quite impressed me as a duo quite yet. I think they're going to get there eventually, but this is the very beginning of their season, right? They haven't actually played an Academy game yet, funny enough. So if they didn't play in Lock-In or this tournament, their season actually wouldn't have even begun yet. They're one of the only Academy teams that has actually played games so far. And I think it's definitely showing in their gameplay right now. I know that both these guys are very skilled. I think they just need to figure out how to combine their two playstyles. His Iconic is very much the guy who's going to farm up a lot in the jungle and be a monster late game. And I think Ryoma hasn't quite adjusted to that playstyle yet. So I'm excited to see when it clicks. Maybe it'll click today. That'd be really cool.
I'd be down for that. And Mira, I want to throw a point over to you with that talking point there. We're talking about these players kind of coming together and starting to go and build something together with them. You took a part in Game Changers, and I do want to kind of pick your brain in regards to that. How is it like whenever you're first starting up that team? Is it like what you're seeing with the Golden Guardians roster, where they're kind of still trying to pick up the pieces and then you kind of just gel together?
It's kind of like picking up sticks and stones and kind of making a macaroni project, whatever. It's interesting to remember what I learned back in Game Changers, especially with all the coaches that I worked with, and see concepts that I learned being applied to actual games, and seeing things like crashing waves and recognizing like when to dive a champion minutes before it even happens. So it's kind of like a puzzle watching professional gameplay, seeing if the players are actually going to go through with these kinds of plays.
start to get to see the setup, the waves crashing in. You look over at the minimap and you just start hearing the Jaws music. You see the jungler in the tri-bush and you're like, I know what's about to happen.
I've seen this before.
That being said, I mean, it's going to be great to be able to see what these two teams have going in store. GG did drop one game also, by the way, in last week's matches, and I do want to go ahead and talk about that. They did drop a game to UCI, and I feel like if we go off into our game without mentioning that, it would be a huge thing to not go into. We have a graphic here showing how last week played out.
Right. So for Golden Guardians, like you said, it's really important to like look at that matchup against UCI and specifically the game that they did lose. And I think a lot of that was off the back of their of UCI's solo laners really exploiting their pressure and then transitioning that into some mid-game leads, getting a lot of objectives out of that. I think that's something that Golden Guardians need to really pay attention to, because I mean, this is a team that's expecting to be competitive at Lock-In and Academy, and you know, trying to win this entire tournament. No disrespect to UCI, but they're shooting a little higher than that. So the fact that they were humbled in that way is a really big step for them. They're going to need to figure out ways to avoid this. I think a lot of that is going to come down to Tony and Ryoma getting on the same page in terms of lane. It's going to be a little different for them. Like I said, Ryoma needs to coordinate with Iconic a bit better, and Tony, I think, needs to figure out how to stay afloat in these lane matchups. Especially today, it's going to mean the world, because we know that Alorum is going to play weak side most likely. So if Tony can get these advantages, and Iconic can use his huge, vast knowledge of playing around top lane after playing with Niles for so many years, and use that to Tony Top's playstyle, I think that's going to be a really good way for them to win. It's going to be harder on blue side, so I think Golden Guardians really do need to make sure they are on red as much as possible, so they get counterpick for Tony Top. That's going to be really important. But on blue side, it's still something they have to think about, and something that they can prepare for in the top lane against Alorum.
And to take note of that too, I believe that Golden Guardians did end up taking blue side as well. So
right.
they're
going against
they're going against the
off-roading it.
I as soon as you said that, I was just like, hold on, let me just double check, because I was like, wait, did they switch it? But no, they are taking blue side inside of game number 1. So Golden Guardians Academy, they're looking to test the waters right off the beginning of the series, and I really enjoy that, to see them looking to go for it, because red side was super favored. I feel like we saw a lot of red side dubs and a lot of great drafts from red side. And Mira, I do want to go ahead and throw it over to you on this one. You're looking at this matchup coming into it, watching it live. Is there a particular way that you would like to see anybody play for this, especially when we're talking about these scaling mids and these tops that have these unique champion pools? Is there something that you look at when you come in here and you hear those words and you're like, all right, this is what we want to see?
Wait, this is for me?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. So there's something to think about with team composition, especially with draft. There's this idea where even with a Tahm Kench versus Malphite matchup, even if you're not doing anything in the lane proactively against each other, whoever's team comp they fit better in will outscale the other one. So it's not really champion specific, it's with team comp specific. So let's say Tahm Kench has a full 80 short range comp against Malphite Top. Malphite Top looks like God right now. He's gonna ruin your life later. You better get. I almost cursed. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse.
We can understand how impassionate Tahm Kench makes you feel.
But same thing goes for like any other champions, even with junglers, mid lane, AD carry, support. We could apply this idea to other roles as well.
I love to see it. Not the PTSD that came out there, but
I have nothing against Tahm Kench.
You heard it here. Mura has beef with Kench, the River King.
I love Alorm's Trample. Alorm's a great guy. I've known him since season 3. I remember playing with him in my solo queue games in season 4. Yes.
With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we do want to go ahead and preach the proactivity over onto the Twitter here. Make sure you go over to Twitter and tweet out "We are unified," and your tweet could show up on the Academy stream and make things ever so fantastic here. Be sure to put out everything. Tell us about your best Tom Kench experience, for example. That will be great to highlight on the stream.
Guys. Dude.
With that being said, I believe that we are getting ready to get into our game here. So, with that being said, I'm going to send it over to our ever so fabulous casters, Dia and Rudude, to take it on away.
Thank you so much, Trav, Smacks, and Mora, for a very entertaining desk, because we had a while to set up for Golden Guardians Academy versus Wildcard, but now it's only seconds away from happening. We got that draft coming up real soon, Rudude, and I think our desk has done an excellent job of sort of highlighting the places where both rosters could falter, and we're very, very focused, oddly enough, on that late game.
Exactly. Both of these teams, from what we've seen, tend to be a little bit more stagnant in the early stages, and both Golden Guardians and Wildcard alike tend to have these late game powerhouse team fights where either side really can scale up into oblivion and take those fights by storm. Strompist in the mid lane for Wildcard, certainly a powerful presence in those late game team fights, and similarly Stixxay and Ryoma alike can both be those late game carry sources with the experience that they bring, obviously having played in LCS previously, to really be a source of threat as they go into those late game team fights. And all question marks are surrounding the early game, and who is going to start the game out strong, who's going to be able to take those leads, because I think that that's a crucial way for Wildcard to find what would be ultimately an upset victory here up against the Academy squad.
Yeah, and the building blocks certainly are there, especially when I think about the mid lane. Strompest really wowed me with his Veigar last week, and for the most part, I think that I'm comfortable saying that Strompest on immobile mages is the way to go for Wildcard. If you can get him one of those, I want to say hyper-scaling mid laners, but ones that scale well and that, importantly, provide a lot of utility to the team, I think that he can do so much, not just for himself, not just in terms of the damage, but in terms of keeping the rest of his squad safe and set up to do their best. Whereas, on the other side of this, Golden Guardians Academy definitely have me looking a lot at Stixxay, and it's for the reason that they were pretty focused on him last week as well, constantly funneling resources into the bot lane, and Stixxay really can make use of them.
Exactly. Off the weekend here, maybe a little bit of a rough lock in tournament, coming back to the amateur scene, getting into the swing of things once again, hopefully giving Stixxay those resources once more to see and facilitate that bot lane carry, and maybe a little bit of a prelude here to what the Academy roster are going to be looking to achieve when Violet does manage to get things all sorted out with those visa issues here. So playing toward the same playstyle, maybe not the same player necessarily, but still hoping to get everything pretty much in check, just in case, or just in time really, for the Academy season to get underway. And of course, we talked about Strompist here being that immobile mage player. I think that it's nice for you to say that something that has set up for the team later on, because it really is a nice evolution of Strompist. Previously in amateur has been the really hard carry 1v9 Rise guy, where you just stick him on Rise and you hope that he carries you in a late game team fight, where now he's pulling out these things like the Veigar, those Event Horizons, catching people out, setting up the team to get them those picks, get them those kills, and set them up for success.
Yeah, very clearly the rest of the team has that confidence in him. Let's see if we get that demonstrated to us in the draft, whether Strompest gets prioritized in terms of a nice counter matchup that they will have available on the red side or not. However, you and I both know that, especially recently, AD carries really are the thing to focus on, at least in those first couple picks.
Yeah, flavor of the month right now. It's nice to see that AD carries have a presence, are a strong force to be reckoned with, and already we're seeing some red side bans be targeted toward the Golden Guardians Academy. We've got the Aphelios #1. Expect to see things like the Caitlyn, like the Jinx, potentially be fairly high priority, but as we can see, going through with Wildcard, you know that you've got to take out a few unique top laners. The thing with Alorim is he's got those pocket picks like the Urgot, like the Poppy, and also the Tom Kench already see banned away. If these things don't get taken off the board, he's he's going to be more than comfortable to be sat topside, to be as weak-sided as possible, and still come away feeling like he's been strong-sided.
I was very happy to see him pull out the Poppy last week as well. It provides so much safety to the rest of the squad that I would like to see Wildcard sort of return to that if they are going to go for this late game comp, especially depending, of course, reactively on what Golden Guardians will go with. Golden Guardians very much reacting to their specific matchup are going to take away that rise that Strumpest is so well known for, and now get the chance to open up with a very, very limited AD carry pool.
Do we just go Jhin here? Is that the move to try and take the sort of one remaining AD carry up in that S tier pool? It looks as though with a lot of Karma priority as well, Golden Guardians Academy maybe going to be opting down that route. With this pinched pool, obviously all the ADCs that are available do tend to increase in priority. Things like Ezreal as well still exist as something that a team may look toward. But it's going to be with that first lock in here, a Karma still, obviously a little bit of a flex pick, but I don't think putting Ryoma on that Karma is your way to true success here, making sure that you can give him a little bit more agency, so likely to be a support. Answer of Blind Corki very early on. Now this is interesting, staking a lot of priority on the Corki side of what we expect to be a Victor Corki matchup, and actually opens us up here for some really in-depth ADC bans if we don't get it picked up in this round.
Yeah, and at this point, I really like that they're considering the Ezreal at least. I think that Golden Guardians must have expected Wildcard to try and snap that Jhin up and planned on having the Ezreal anyway, which is why they're just going to take it here, and now presumably that Victor, lest it get banned going into the next phase, because if you don't take your mid laner now, you're going to have a limited pool, and I honestly don't mind the Zoe. It's an interesting turn.
Especially on Ryoma as well. This guy's been styling on Zoe since he came to NA, so exceptionally happy to see this. It facilitates an entire poke composition as well, which for both sides is sort of what we're coming with here. We've obviously got Karma, Ezreal, and Zoe, who have all got really long-range spells to be dishing out that damage with. Corki with the missiles. If we see a Crown Kai'Sa build come through, those Void Seekers really can dish out damage as well. Now what we need to see from Golden Guardians is a little bit of a front line start to amalgamate itself here. We've got the Xin Zhao Wildcard at the minute, which means that they've got a lot of space to be bought with that Crescent Guard, a lot of time in the front line that he has. Now we get to win and see what the rest of Wildcard can go for. Immediate J-Span to get rid of the remainder of that poke. That trifecta from all three lanes has been taken out immediately.
Pain it would be, and I like the Jarvan takeaway as well, especially because it would be nice to trade the Xin Zhao for the Jarvan. We've seen it quite a bit. Something that I'm noticing with Wildcard's composition, since they got the Xin Zhao and the Kai'Sa as well, is that they've also got the opportunity to pivot this a little bit more into a hard engage style of composition. They've got the top lane pick and the support pick available to really double down on that, and there's a chance that they look at Golden Guardian's poke composition and go, well, we're going to get in your face, so what are you going to do about it? Let's find out if that happens here.
Exactly, and with Mantra E so far, pretty much the only source of disengage for Golden Guardians, that hard engage style is certainly something available. We've got things like Leona still open to us, Thresh even as well, the Rakan, a great pick as well, pairs nicely with the Kai'Sa, a couple of plasma stacks built in that duo. So again, as you mentioned here, dear, that engage composition certainly something to go that they can double down with, and they've also got counterpick for Alorim on this top side here, so can keep himself exceptionally safe in that top lane with whichever pick he so desires. And Wildcard so far got themselves a nice run of the draft. Have to wait and see what Golden Guardians look to round out their composition with. Remember, just missing out on that top and jungle.
Okay, so we got a jungler picked up here, or at least we can imagine with the Viego. I'm kind of thinking Gragas, mainly because of the disengage and the tankiness that he brings, but it seems like Golden Guardians may have other plans. They're thinking about just going into this, saying, yeah, well, you want to fight us? I suppose that we will do exactly the same thing. A Camille, another interesting pivot, although it doesn't necessarily change the way that Golden Guardians want to fight. It does give them a little bit more consistency inside of the 5v5.
Really strong skirmish orientated composition from Golden Guardians right now. Early on, Viego getting those resets pre-level 6, Ryoma being able to roam up through use those bubbles through walls, through the terrain. Shen comes through as that R5 pickup, certainly a pick that can do very well versus the Camille. Well-timed Spirit's Refuge can immune a large portion of what Tony Top's damage is going to be looking to accomplish, and is also very good at answering roams from the Camille, right? Whoever gets Hextech ultimatumed, boom, you get a Stand United, a massive shield to help you out, so a good answer up on that top side. And Shen also has a large portion of dueling capability. The engage potential from Wildcard here certainly going to be very present. You're using Rakan as your primary source of engage, and what we love to see when you see Shen picked up is that proactive use of the Stand United as well, not using it as a reactive measure, using it, maybe putting it on Pokus here to get those engages, give him a little bit more health in the front line, or even Griffin to the same extent here. Get that engage, knock somebody up, and then Stixxay Ryoma. They need to be incredibly careful of their positioning, because it's not just the knock-up they need to be careful for, it's a Shen spawning in and getting that instant taunt.
I mean, I will tell you, if there's one person that I trust with positioning, it is definitely Stixxay, based on last week, but the danger is there, and it'll be something that we keep our eyes on for these very squishy and high damage poke dealers that Golden Guardians have. Wildcard, with the variety of ways that they have to get on top of them, do have to be worried themselves because of this Viego that you're going to be running through. It may not be the tanky frontline that I was expecting from Golden Guardians, but it is more of a meat grinder frontline than anything. If you try and ignore Viego and Camille and go through them into the backline, you can and will die, and that is something that I think Wildcard will have to be worried about. I think the nice thing that Golden Guardians have here is that they are very good at compositionally at being able to deal with 1v1s at different areas in which Wildcard can approach them, because that was something that differentiated Golden Guardians and Wildcard just last week. Golden Guardians really liked having this front to back fight, and Wildcard on the other side tried to play a little bit more scrappy of a 5v5, taking a lot of different angles, converting a 5v5 into 5 separate 1v1s, and if they can do that here, I do think that at least this composition from Golden Guardians is a little bit better set up to take that than another might be.
Yeah, obviously, if you take these champions just into a 1v1, particularly on the top side for me here, you're giving Golden Guardians champions the run of the show, really. You know, Camille in the side lane, talks about her time and time again at the priority that she can muster in a side lane, and Iconic will thrive in those more skirmish-oriented battles with, you know, particular scraps. Also worth noting that Wildcard do have this option with the Corki to go for a more poke-up-centric build, or to go for that hardcore team fight style where you just pick up the Immortal Shield Bow and your auto attacks absolutely melt people. The Gatling gun really can be deceptive in the amount of reductions that it, or in the amount of resistances that it reduces, so you do need to be careful for getting shredded through that one. And if you get, obviously, this more crit-centric build, Corki is a really big late-game hyper carry. He's not just a poke source of damage. He can do absolutely everything.
That guy is so scary. Everybody on Golden Guardians, with the possible exception of Camille, is going to be 3 autos away from death at any given moment. And you know what? Well, we're trying to figure out exactly how these compositions are going to play out, what the players are going to do. I'm sure that everybody else has got their opinions already as to what would be best. And I would challenge you all to try that out, because if you want to compete in amateur esports at the highest levels in North America, you can join up at Unified Premier. It is the place to be this spring, with 3 seasons annually and over $27,000 in prizing this spring. Amateur and collegiate League of Legends and Valorant teams are invited to apply now through January 24th at midnight. Anytime until January 24th, you can go ahead and register. You can start or continue your own esports path to pro by heading over to unified.gg/organization/application. Then you have a chance to compete in Unified Premier's biggest season yet. That is unified.gg/organization/application right at the bottom of your screen to test your own mettle, whether it be in League of Legends or in Valorant.
Yeah, I mean, and who knows, right? Maybe, you know, you apply, all of a sudden, you're on this stream next year. That's a very real possibility if you are that tip-top, the cream of the crop. But for now, though, dear, we've still got that Golden Guardians Academy versus Wildcard roster matchup here. Reminder to everybody at home, if you missed the desk here, Smax highlighted it perfectly. The winners go through to the playoff stage as our first seed from Group B. So there is a lot to play for. The losers have to play another series up against the winners of the series that we're going to see on the latter end of this one. So a lot to be playing for here. You get yourself a little bit of a week off here. You get a Monday off, essentially, which actually for Golden Guardians, you know, certainly something they're going to be looking for, having played 3 straight days in lock-in and then straight back to Academy. A little bit of time off, maybe nice.
They're looking for it pretty hard right now. All 5 people down in the bot side. No offensive wards placed by either team just yet, but one of the things that you and I were talking about when we think about winning this series is that I had a small opinion that I shared with you before this, that I feel like this series is likely to be decided within the first game because Wildcard and Golden Guardians have such differing styles when it comes to the late game, but because they both like that late game, this first game is going to be the thing that really determines who needs to adapt and faster, because one of these styles is going to come out on top, and going into today, I have no idea who could possibly be.
No, and that's the beauty here then of best of three, is that we get that chance to see a little bit of adaptation as well, perchance. What I want to highlight to everybody here and going forward in this series is that we are very likely to see our jungler starting on the top side, pathing toward bot lane. It was highlighted that Alorim is very strong on this weak side, not getting many resources from Griffin, from the rest of Wildcard here, and already shown here from Griffin. Starting on that red buff, even gets a little bit of a leash from his Shen, expecting these junglers to be pathing down toward the bot lane, Stixate and Manui alike, needing to be incredibly conscious that they don't get caught out and that they can stay safe in the bot lane. And of course, when you get these junglers pathing toward that bot lane, mid lane priority tends to become incredibly important, because if Ryoma, particularly on this blue side Zoe, walking towards bot lane, he's got a really thick wall that he can launch a bubble through and set up a gank if he gets a 5-10 second window to just walk through the river.
You know, I love that you talked about the mid laners in here as well, because one of the things that our analyst desk had highlighted earlier was the ability for the mid 2v2 to really disrupt the way that we think on paper this game should be played. And I'm sort of curious myself as to how the 2v2 between a Zoe Viego and a Corki Xin would play out, because it feels like Corki Xin should have the edge.
We've got CC in both parts of GGA, and Wildcard, obviously, with Corki being fairly weak early on, just the one on the Xin Zhao. So I tend toward the other side of that one, dear. Honestly, say that GGA have got a slight advantage in that mid 2v2. We are going to get, per chance, a little bit of a glimpse firsthand here. Griffin spotting him out with the path, and Iconic gets spotted out, but the red buff is going to be quickly secured. So Griffin with a slight time waste here, but maybe he'll find an angle into the mid lane as Ryoma looking to force this wave under the turret before he gets ganked.
Ryoma, yeah, does not seem to be aware of this, but right now he is very much so moving up towards the top side. A very nice Sleepy Trouble Bubble will connect. Slow on the other side. It does mean that Griffin's actually emboldened to go for this, flashing with the audacious charge. Ryoma does manage to get away, but it is at the cost of his own summoner.
Now, but look at Iconic immediately on the bottom side into Wildcard's jungle. He's got a pushing bot lane, and he's going to be able to steal away this blue buff. Yes, Pocker spots this one out, but there's no chance for Griffin to get here in time. He's recalling on the top side of Summoner's Rift. Chime moves in as well, and Iconic's going to get himself a distinct lead here. Remember, Griffin sacrificed taking any of his bot side to go for that gank in the mid lane. Went for a little invade into the jungle before he was actually making that play into Ryoma. So now this could be one, maybe even two camps that he's losing, on top of the two that he missed out on originally for going for the play.
They're going to try and keep it at just the one for right now. You could see Manui and Pacus moving over to make sure that that Krug went to their jungler, trying to mitigate any small lead that Golden Guardians would get in the early game. And make no mistake, they have one to the tune of about 500 gold. No small thing, especially with First Blood not having gone down yet, for Golden Guardians to have sort of created out of nowhere, be it the jungle CS or be it the CS in lanes that Stixay is already ahead in.
Yeah, Karma an incredibly oppressive laner, so getting a little bit of an CS advantage for your AD carry, certainly something that you look to accomplish 9 times out of 10 as the Karma. Pocus obviously having to roam up a little bit, also going to be mitigating what Manui can accomplish in terms of that CS department. But that early roam may well come to cost Griffin here. Reminder, both of these junglers, former LCS players, have got that experience at the top level in North America, so any of these small missteps could very easily be exploited here by one another. What that play does open up Wildcard for, though, is a repeat gank in the mid lane, and with a flash advantage on Strumpist, he's going to have an opportunity to potentially look for some heavily aggressive trades, and if Ryoma steps a little too far forward, that roam back from Griffin, the repeat gank, certainly very present.
So it makes this vision game all the more important. Now spotting Griffin up towards the top side, Golden Guardians are making sure this Xin Zhao never goes unchecked. There's even a ward just off to the north end of the mid lane to see where this Xin could be going. For right now, it is Tony Top that is in trouble. Does have that little bit of an escape with the hook shot that actually ends up up connecting. Despite the fact that Wildcard knew that this was going to go through, didn't have a disruption available, and Tony Top now gets that information and gets out with his life.
Golden Guardians Academy are just operating with actual perfect information right here. They see Griffin clearing a ward on top side. They've spotted Parkus on the top side as well. This leaves Manu incredibly isolated in the bot side, and he may well have to sacrifice a wave or two to the turret. Parkus may well get back in time, so it's not all doom and gloom for the Wildcard AD carry. But Drake going over now to Golden Guardians Academy. Iconic loses nothing on his top side, was very swift with his clear from top to the bot lane once again to make sure that he missed out on nothing here and gets a little buff of damage to the team.
You know, this is really, really nice, and it is just a free advantage that goes over to Golden Guardians. It is slow, but it is importantly steady, the rate at which they are constantly putting pressure on and getting these small little rewards from Wildcard Gaming. It's the thing that is going to set up, if this continues, Golden Guardians Academy for a much accelerated late game, just because of these little bits of gold that keep funneling in. Over time, it'll turn into an item.
And what we highlighted coming into this series, remember, Dia, is that both of these teams love to take their late game team fights. And with these slow pace early games, it's to nobody's surprise that we're seeing, you know, no first blood 7 minutes in. And it's why we're drawing such an emphasis on these slight jungle advantages that Iconic has been pulling, because that's pretty much all the advantages that there have been so far in this game. It's incredibly important to highlight those because they could well be the difference maker as we get into these mid-game team fights. Obviously, with no Dragon up for a few more minutes, the likelihood is that Rift Herald is going to be that next objective that, if we were to see a contest, it will be around. And you have to look toward potential bot lane roams as well if we look to see Styx 8 or Chime take a reset fairly early on. Trusop Barrage was just expended, so the chance that Golden Guardians are looking to force this wave under the turret, find a base, and move their way right back up to this top side to try and battle for that Rift Herald spawning in just 10 seconds.
It seems like Pockus is mirroring them, but it is 1 recall for the price of 2, so Golden Guardians should have a numbers advantage. There's a chance, and I say a small one, this actually ends up being very worth it for Manui as well, if he can push this wave in, but it seems like that is not the call by anybody. All 5 members of both teams are heading up towards the top side, and we're going to see how this battle ends up going, if it even happens. This Iconic has already started the Rift Herald, and it may very well be that by the time Wildcard arrive, it could be too late.
Package for Strompiss. Manui may be a little bit delayed here, but you can see Tony Top wanted to go to bot lane. He's going to come right back up to this top side. Can Strompiss make the
flash? Oh my lord, Sleep goes down and Ryoma instantly flashes away, but it's Iconic that's in trouble as Griffin pops the Crescent Guard and tries to finish off the Rift Herald. He's going to get it. Iconic, though, still very much alive on the side, is trying to take up as much of a Lauren's time as possible, while Tony Top jumps in to finish off Griffin. No invulnerability on this Xin Zhao anymore, and Ryoma is following you, looking for the Sleepy but Trouble Bubble through the wall, maybe able to find it, but not off cooldown just yet. Seems like Strompiss and Manui are going to get away just barely.
Yeah, nice Mystic Shot actually steals away the Herald. The Mystic Shot hitting the eye and getting about 1,000 damage out.
No way.
Collects the Herald, and it's Chime that gets it on himself. 1 for 1 in the fight, but ultimately Golden Guardians are going to be very happy with that. The package was their form of engage. You can have a look at it here as they're sort of teasing it up here. Golden Guardians were on vision for the most part of this. And Strompiss starts out using his face, that Stand United again, proactive play. But this is the engage. It doesn't particularly do anything. And yes, Iconic gets a little bit caught out, flashes to safety, and it is Alorum that's barely able to finish him off, I believe, up on this top side. But either way, with the steal coming through, yeah, there we go. Alorum finishes it off. It is that Herald that goes the way of Golden Guardians, and Flash is forced off both of the carries from Wildcard. It's going to create a very scary 5 minutes time, during which that next Drake will respawn.
Ultimately, the 1 for 1 small gold advantage, of course, going over to Wildcard, but as you talked about, the Rift Herald is the real prize. It's why we were all there in the first place, and with Chime still holding on to that, it is going to be Golden Guardians that retain the advantage of being able to crack that first tower. However, Tony Top, perhaps under some threat that he doesn't quite know about just yet, will spot Griffin walking in and actually take a small little skirmish with him, knowing now that 3 members toward this bot side put the threat back on Golden Guardians, that they could lose some gold in the form of these bricks.
Yeah, and could potentially lose Tony as well if he's too stubborn.
Looks like he is, as he gets engaged on right underneath the tower, does get a small shield, and might just get out to safety as the last little bit connects, and in goes the audacious charge. It will be Tony that ends up falling as the tower up in the top side falls, and as does Alorum. Iconic getting a nice reset and dash away underneath the tower. Manages to stay alive, continuing Shelly onwards to get a second charge on the tier 2 before Golden Guardians have even lost their bot side turret.
Yeah, it's a 1-for-1 in terms of kills. Both top laners sticking around just a little too long, but importantly, Golden Guardians with that Rift Herald, with that steal from the earlier fight, are able to make the most of the objectives. They get 2 turrets in the top lane in exchange for 0 that have gone down in this bot side. Tony's going to be able to respawn, walk back to bot lane, and defend it once again. All 4 wildcards to collect themselves 1 Chemtech Dragon, which is going to be of little consequence to Golden Guardians with the massive gold influx that they have just got from those 2 turrets. They're going to put Stixay and Chime back down into that bot lane. There is still 2.5 minutes before plates fall, dear. They're going to be more than happy to try and take some of those off the board as well. And already you can sort of tell Golden Guardians starting to amount themselves a little bit of an advantage coming through with that Stixay Ezreal.
I tell you what, Rudude, a shiver just went down my spine as well, because we've got the scariest soul on the Rift coming up. Chemtech is absolutely terrifying to play with, not just because of the irritating way that it affects vision inside the jungle, the high tax that it puts on being able to maintain such exclusivity, but also because of the soul that comes with it. Once you collect those dragons, if you manage to, either Golden Guardians or Wildcard could end up with a pseudo second life, and inside these team fights that both teams like to opt into in the late game, that is going to be a very highly prized thing. We'll keep our eyes on how that plays out. Nice Sleepy Trouble bubble landing. Shouldn't do that too much though.
Okay, True Shot Barrage does do a fair portion of Pockett's HP. Of course, the beauty of Rakan is that you tend to still be able to find those engages, get in, get out fairly safely. But you can see, right, Stixay and Chime, they've got the poke of Ezreal Karma. They are more than capable at outranging this bot lane from Wildcard and getting these turrets chipped away at. And, you know, with that supercharge forward, sort of giving up a little bit of the game. Griffin is nearby, but there's a control ward immediately there, and Iconic.
Iconic sees this. Iconic is ready. Pocus and Griffin now actually the ones that are really not going to have a good time. But as Griffin commits forward, it's actually going to be the support Shine that ends up going down. It's Alorum, that guy you can never count out of a fight, ends up showing up. Now on the Shen this game, it is something that I don't think Golden Guardians were quite ready for.
There we go. Proactive Stand United once again incredibly happy with the usages from Wildcard so far this game. 2 to 3 in kill score. True Shot Barrage is going to be a little bit obnoxious here from Stixay. But again, they're losing a kill onto the support and getting a kill onto the tank top laner. All told for Golden Guardians, it's not the worst case scenario. Obviously, still a trade positive for Wildcard in the long run. But in terms of where the kills have gone, not too shabby, and Stixay, most importantly, is still able to collect farm under the turret, get those plates in without too much discrepancy between him and Manui sort of falling away here. Already 2 items on this Ezreal. The beauty of the carry down on the bot side is that your item build path, incredibly cheap relative to other ADCs. Manui on this Kai'Sa actually has a similar sort of presence, but you can see with many fewer plates in his back pocket, he's feeling much worse for wearing that gold department.
Pain is really what Manui is feeling right now, knowing that he could have that spike. Griffin, almost feeling pain himself, as that red buff nearly went the way of Chime. Still is going to be heartily dissuaded to walking into his jungle once more, especially since that is being run now by Ryoma and Chime, invading up towards the top side, buying Golden Guardians even more space to work with, and Stixay even more safety. Strompest couldn't even get back onto the tower right there as the Sleepy Trouble Bubble blocked his path, and now it's going to turn into a nice bit of damage onto Pockets. Ryoma looks for that kill, and Shime flashes to secure it, evening up the kill score, and now likely taking down this tower.
Yeah, we're talking about kill scores. It's also important to remember that the turret scores are going vastly in favor of Golden Guardians Academy right here. 3-0 in that. Wildcard haven't been able to break open a single turret. Barely a couple plates have gone over. I think maybe 2 down on the bot side after the exchange in the top lane. Wildcard have been coming out distinctly behind in the objective trades thus far. Rift Herald now likely to be secured by Iconic up on that top side as well, to maybe break open a little bit more mid lane. But if they want to take down this bot lane tier 1, it looks like Tony Top's going to be able to get this one for himself. They've now got this option of a Herald on Iconic to break open wherever they so desire. One fight goes their way, there's a chance here that the base gets broken.
Out though, as Tony Top may have overextended ever so slightly, does see Paucus, but looks like he's going to be able to get out to safety, with Griffin not wanting to commit too much time there, knowing that there's a dragon to be set up, spawning in just the next 38 seconds. Wards are going to go down, allowing Paucus the chance to set up his team for success and hopefully get a reset or a scan off for that little bit of vision advantage, since Golden Guardians are coming in with plenty of wards to lay down and plenty of time to siege Wildcard Gaming out of the river.
Yeah, 15 seconds on the Herald. The Rift Scuttler did go the way of Wildcard, but it looks like Golden Guardians are saying, if you want that Drake, guys, you know what? That is all you. How about we head ourselves down mid lane? We'll use this Herald, and we'll take over and get even more gold. We are not going to get a soul.
No, already fight starting off over near the river as Tony Top and Iconic began that one, but are hastily disengaging it. Over the wall comes Strumpest, however, and with that package, does end up taking down the jungler. With Minui falling asleep, though, Pockets has to take the Pedal Star, and already both sub 100 HP, one getting picked off by Stixay as he arcane shifts forward, and Ryoma continues to throw out the Paddle Stars and the Sleepy Trouble levels. Pockets is as good as dead. Tony Top ends up collecting that kill, and what looked like such a good fight for Wildcard when they took down the jungler hastily turns away from their favor as cleanup crew is Golden Guardians' best job.
GGA had been investing in Stixay this entire game, and finally the return on investment comes up huge. A huge fight in the bot side river gets Golden Guardians Academy the kill lead, the Drake lead now as well, and full control over Summoner's Rift. Ryoma going to push in this mid lane tier 2, likely to take that turret. You can see it's all an engage that starts on Tony Top here, but they just don't quite have the damage yet to take him down. Iconic does get taken through from the package, but then this chase potential, the Ezreal Zoe, incredible at getting the gaps closed and those kills secured. Chime constantly buffing Stixay, who's landing Mystic Shot after Mystic Shot. Lovely Q flash buffer to catch off guard this Corki as yet. We see the slow chase down. Golden Guardians looking like they are very, very happy with this game state.
I imagine so. This 5v5 went the best it possibly could have, and let me not undersell you, Rudude, the power of the Sleepy Trouble bubble in that scenario. Taking a look at that replay, it was really Ryoma that managed to salvage what could have otherwise been a disastrous situation where Golden Guardians had lost their jungler, the one really able to secure that dragon. Instead, they moved themselves up halfway to Chemtech Soul right now, and though they're losing the top lane tower, somehow I don't think it's bothering them that much. They got plenty of an advantage to work with, over 5,000 gold at the moment, nearing 6,000, and Ryoma, with not a care in the world, gets to push in this bot lane with plenty of support.
Yeah, you can tell on the top side. Oh my word, look at that gold. Stixay is absolutely rich. He is Mr. Moneybags right now. 2.4k on anybody in the game, let alone his mid laner, who is the second most rich as well. Strumpest, the sort of lifeblood here for Wildcard, nowhere near holding a candle to the gold lead of Stixay, as mid lane tier 2 already been felled, bot lane tier 2 next up on the chopping block. Ryoma just absolutely bullying him.
Oh my god, Minui almost dies for doing nothing. They're just showing up to be with the team, but Golden Guardians refuse to stop bullying him, and even now Ryoma goes for a little bit more on Pockets. Has he gone too far, however, pulls out the stopwatch in time to give Golden Guardians a little bit more moments to reposition, and lands another Sleepy Trouble bubble on cooldown. The guy just doesn't quit after the engage was threatened. Ryoma knows that he's invincible.
005, but looking like he is the one sourcing the damage as well here, getting that seasoning on for the team.
Iconic perhaps not as invincible, especially when you've got 3 people on you. Alorum just now coming in as Minui swooped to assist that as well. Griffin is the one that ended up collecting the kill, and has most of them on Wildcard. 3 out of 5 kills belonging on this Xin Zhao. The front line definitely potent for Wildcard, but biggest problem is that right now their backline has almost no gold to work with, especially when you compare that to Golden Guardians that are operating without a care in the world. The siege composition the Golden Guardians have hasn't even been sieging really for the past minute or so, just playing around in the bot lane, seeing if they can pick up a few extra kills.
And to add insult to injury here for Wildcard, all of their gold onto Griffin, who on this Intower is going to have such a hard time operating at maximum efficiency during this game. Not because he's a bad player by any means, but Golden Guardians Academy composition is so good versus a Xin Zhao. Karma to help anybody kite him out. He doesn't know when he wants to pop Crescent Guard because he's getting poked away at time and time again by Ryoma, by Stixxay. These little chips of consistent damage before Griffin's even engaged here. If we get to that siege situation, what is going to make this game incredibly difficult for him. So as we get later on into this game, it does make it incredibly important that Griffin can find that engage, use Alorum as well as that secondary setup.
On the top, without a care in the world, it deletes Minui from the game for even attempting to enter what you would think would be his own jungle. Pockets in equal amounts of trouble, does get flashed on as well as Tony Top connects with the double stun. But these aren't kills that Golden Guardians are looking for anymore. It's about sending a message. Dare not enter this jungle because we have other business to attend to in this area. Baron on the table, and Golden Guardians have no reason not to start it.
No, the control ward to confirm Wildcard's suspicions right now, but you can see, as highlighted here by our observers, trying to face check into this Chemtech Rift, nigh on impossible. No wards down, no control wards have been able to get scattered by Wildcard, and immediately without contest, the Baron buff goes over. Golden Guardians find themselves one pick in the mid lane, and that's all they need to take down the Baron.
Looks good for them as Alorum can collect an objective bounty in the bot lane. Gold is going to close ever so slightly, but it is a very, very slight thing. However, picking off Stixxay, pretty darn massive, I'd say, Rudude, is, well, the gold may not demonstrate it. A death on an Ezreal is a large part of Golden Guardian's plan that gets put on pause for the next 28 seconds, and hence, a dragon that should go over to Wildcard.
Yeah, we're expecting this, but Ryoma can't be trifled with here. Don't underestimate this Zoe's damage.
Well, pops in for the Q onto Griffin, but ends up threading through a Sleepy Trouble Bubble. Strumpest in trouble. As Ryoma watch that next Sleepy Trouble Bubble as well, with Tony Top trying for the engage. Next Sleepy Trouble Bubble actually zones Strumpest out of the fight entirely as Tony Top connects with the damage, but doesn't quite get the kill in time. Puck is still alive on the back end of this. Rejoining the fight now, Ryoma continues to land these Sleepy Trouble Bubbles, and troubling they are. Chime and he running down the rest of the squad and looking for more kills, although I think they've found everything they're going to.
Overall, then, a 2-for-1 in favor of Wildcard. Yes, they get forced out of their jungle, but ultimately there aren't really going to be too many objectives for Golden Guardians to pick up. Their wave's not quite in the right positions to force any turrets down, and they've already done the hard work to get the outsider base turrets taken. Minui here, caught out, unfortunately. Tony Top, ADC versus a Camille. Tends not to go all that well, and within a swift second, takes a quick kneel.
A hands off the monitor situation there, and it may very well be again. We'll keep our eyes on Minui and Tony Top, their interactions as this continues to play out. For right now, the Baron buff that currently is operating at a negative in the Baron power play, still in the hands of Golden Guardians. They didn't lose everyone there, so they do get to continue operating with the Baron. And siege compositions with the Baron are really where they have the best chance to shine. Stixxay and Ryoma can have the time of their lives and take towers in the meantime. Inhibitor tower already basically history, with the inhibitor really the next thing on Golden Guardians' mind.
Strumpest did come back to base. They may look to try and take a fight, but another bubble landing here. It is going to be a big chunk. That shield bow popped as well. Look mid lane.
Griffin and Pockets engaging on top of Tony Top, but killing this Camille, very, very difficult and exhausted all the more so. However, as Griffin finds a Ryoma and then goes golden, there's a chance that this Xin Zhao actually gets to survive. And when he flashes away, he's going to get to Minui, thinking about jumping onto Ryoma in the backline. Now finally gets the chance to, but he gets put to sleep instantly and taken down. Golden Guardians, they're just too aware of what Wildcard can do, and though they lose Tony, they end up getting that bot lane inhibitor and getting out in an even trade.
Dashing through a sleep here, I believe, Minui, not being able to get that assassination onto too many targets. Yes, Tony Top falls, and overall for Wildcard, it has to be said, not the worst thing. Objective bounties being up here if they're collecting those kills onto players as well. They're going to be getting a little bit more gold in their pocket. But importantly, with a takedown of the bot lane inhibitor, with the Baron spawning in 2 minutes and 30 here, that is going to overlap with your Baron respawn timer. Inhibitors lasting for about 5 minutes means that about 2 minutes left on the inhib respawn, there is going to be ever-present forces pushing into that bot lane. We now get another recap of that fight, but you can see so swift with the Shurelias. Golden Guardians can just make their way over to this fight in the mid lane. Griffin pops Stasis Spirit's Refuge, keeps him a little bit nice and a little bit alive here. Unfortunately, getting this kill onto Tony successfully, but straight into the sleep, straight into the backline. It is Manui who falls to the 1-for-1 overall, and Golden Guardians with that base take are going to be coming out on top for this fight.
Had he not been slept, there's actually a dream there. Health bars are pretty low on Golden Guardians, but huge props to Alorum and Griffin for starting that fight off and continuing it as well as they could. Did end up netting them at least a little bit more time to breathe. As Golden Guardians, however, get to return to the Rift. Now Baronless, they still have plenty of gold and plenty of confidence to work with, especially with Ryoma throwing out these skill shots constantly. Inhibitor Tower already at half health, and engage is very, very difficult for Wildcard at this point. Griffin still needs to start these fights with his face, and Alorum, honestly, is having a difficult time accessing any sort of backline to disrupt the Ezreal Zoe. It really does need to be front to back, and Wildcard simply don't have the damage yet.
Yeah, I mean, Griffin has been forced to use Crescent Guard twice defensively now off of Bubbles hitting. He can't be the front line for the team, and it is opening up Golden Guardians to literally hit it without Baron right now. There's a little bit of health left on this mid inhibitor turret. One more wave, and you imagine Golden Guardians will be able to brute force this here. Pocus may well also need to try and step up, find that engage. Has got the flash ready. Keep your eyes on Stixxay and Ryoma. They're the two priority targets for the Golden Guardian squad to get taken down. Cleanse on Ryoma as well right now. That flash spell book not available.
Manui able to be jumped on, or rather Stixxay able to be jumped on by Manui. Doesn't go exactly as I think Wildcard would hope. Instead, with their inhibitor falling, it does feel like Golden Guardians are just choking them out here, keeping minion waves from ever crossing the tier 2 tower line in either lane, any of the 3 lanes even. Well, Tony Top does get engaged on. He's going to try and disengage, even flashing to make sure that he stays alive. And a lot gets burned from Wildcard, ultimately not to get anything. Golden Guardians now having the chance to reset, go get their way back to Baron, and pick up a Chemtech Dragon on the way. Putting themselves at Soul Point is likely the best way this could have gone for them. As we're approaching this 30-minute mark, I think that Wildcard have to worry about making it there.
Unsuccessful attempt at taking down the inhibitor, but Golden Guardians, they take so much gold from Wildcard Gaming, forcing jungle camp after jungle camp as well to be missed. I think that the respawn's just now coming through at fortunate timing, really, for them. Iconic searching for an engage.
They want Manui so bad, forcing the flash even, as the sleepy trouble bubble would herald his death. Manui gets to survive, and that is just about it, as even resting in his own jungle would certainly have spelled his doom. Ryoma continues to fish, and Iconic just continues to zone everybody out with this camouflage that he's constantly throwing down the harrowed path. Really putting in a lot of work here. Golden Guardians return to running this top side, and the last time they did this, it was because of Baron. This time, it's also because of Baron.
Weird that the big neutral objective wins.
Griffin starting a fight. Griffin going to sleep. Aloran has shown up, however, and Pocus could throw a wrench in things as Tony Top zones out 2-3 members. He's going to use his own ultimate to go invulnerable for a hot second, buying just enough time for Golden Guardians to continue the push forward. The front to back of this team is just disgusting, and left with only 2 members underneath the tower. Make it 1. Strumpest, the last bastion of Wildcard, may just go down here in the very first game, being jumped on by the Heartbreaker and finished off by Ryoma. As it starts, so will it end. Golden Guardians turning this into a big victory.
Yeah, 2 inhibitors for their prize. It'll be the Nexus as well, securing themselves game number 1 in this series off a really clutch fight in the topside jungle.
Haka's going to respawn just isn't in time. Golden Guardians made this swift, a 29-minute game for them. Surprisingly short, and for Wildcard, it really never felt like they hit that late game that they were hoping for. Maybe next time, Rudude. Maybe next time.
Well, let's hope so here. Hoping for that 3-game series, but Wildcard calm, controlled in their approach to this game from the start onwards. Never really looked like they were too far behind. I think the gold lead will have been in their favor. I'll give it 99% of this game. They were controlled in their approach, and with that Zoe pickup for Ryoma, we questioned we didn't really question, knew it was going to be very powerful, but it's against the status quo of the meta. Here, it wasn't the victor as anticipated, but Ryoma certainly showed why he didn't need it.
Yeah, one of the things that really wowed me about this game from Golden Guardians is that while their draft was good and they managed to play to it towards the later stages of the game, the beginning part of the game where they started accruing these small advantages was purely based on fundamentals, tossing this all the way back to the jungle tracking that they had on Griffin. They sniffed out Wildcard's way to actually get things going in their favor and just said, all right, well, if we can see you, if we're operating on full information, surely it can't happen. They ended up getting a few jungle camps of their own, starting to snowball that into the lanes, and it looked really amazing.
It really did. Certainly impressed by the Golden Guardians Academy squad here, bouncing back from their rough weekend. 0-1 up, still another game to go, still another win on the books that they need to collect themselves to buy themselves that first seed in the group.
Well, before we jump into that, I want to hear what our analyst desk has to say. They had some big brain thoughts before the game, and let's find out what they have to say after, of course, we take a short break.